Hello my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. Today I've got another book talk video to share with you guys and some shoutouts, but we'll save those until the end. For now, let's just jump right in to the book. And today we are talking about Since We Fell by Dennis Lehane. Now, Dennis is the author of Mystic River and Shutter Island, along with other books, but those two specifically have been made into films within the past however many years. Mystic River is a story I really enjoyed, both the film and the book, so I was excited to give his new work a try. So, Since We Fell is kind of two stories in one, kind of. Well, first of all, the book starts off with a bang, the prologue that has the main character murdering her husband. They're on a boat, she takes aim, shoots him in the chest, and he falls off the boat. So that's where we start off. Then we go into the first part. The book is broken up into 3 parts. Part 1 is kind of a really extended backstory on this main character. One thing that kind of surprised me was how very little that meant later in the book. Once you're done, you kind of look back on how much backstory we're given about her, and it seems a little unnecessary, maybe. But that's okay. That's okay. So we meet Rachel Childs. She is the daughter of a sort of celebrated psychiatrist who has also written books. One book that became a huge hit years and years ago, and while her national notoriety may have simmered down a bit, she was still very much a local celebrity. So Rachel and her mom, they live together, and Rachel doesn't know who her dad is. She's never known, and her mother will not tell her, no matter what. She kind of lords this information over her. Like, at one point she says, once you're mature enough, I'll tell you who he was once you graduate high school. But then high school graduation comes, and Rachel's out with her friends, and they have a bit of fun, and that makes her mother deem her not responsible enough to know the information. She says, once you're done college, maybe you'll be able to handle it. And it's just very bizarre that she won't give her this kind of information. Then one day, before Rachel can find out who her father is, her mother's killed in a car accident. And then that's kind of the end of it. She feels with her mother's death goes her chance of ever finding out who her father was. So she gets a bit of info, as much as she can, from old journals of her mom's and little hints here and there that she had left through the years. And she hires a private detective to try and find her father. She knows he was a professor at a university, or at least he had been. She knew his first name, she thought, and that was about all she had to go by. So the private detective was able to narrow it down a little bit, but not really. And anyway, it's all a little muddled in the beginning, all this that's going on that doesn't really matter later on. So anyway, she's a reporter, a journalist, and she, at this point in her life, she has a contact with a doctor who used to be her mother's doctor. And he comes to her because he's in a bit of legal trouble and he wants her help. And she figures out that he probably knows who her father is because this doctor knew her mother at the time when she was born. That he's actually the doctor who birthed her. So there's a bit of drama there and a bit of controversy, and I won't get too much into it because, like I said, it doesn't really matter. And then she ends up getting the name from him of who her father is. So she goes and she looks up this man, and he has a wife and children, of course, because You know, it's been many, many years. She's in her mid-20s at this point, and she goes and meets them, and she really likes them, but it's during the dinner with them that he says that he's not her biological father, that when he left when she was 2 or 3, he had a paternity test and found that he wasn't the father, and the relationship with her mother was just dissolving, and he had to leave for, you know, his own sanity and probably her mom's as well. So that happens, but they form a relationship to the point where when Rachel gets married for the first time, this man walks her down the aisle as though he were her father, and they have a really nice, close relationship. So that's all well and good. Later on down the line, she runs into the private detective again. His name was Brian. He tells her that he's from Canada and that he works for a lumber company now. He got out of the detective business and he's working for a family-run lumber company. So she's like, okay, great. Nice running into you. And after that, kind of through the years, every so often, she'll get an email from him, kind of. At this point, she's a reporter on TV, so every so often he sends her like, hey, saw you on TV, or good job with this story, or this, or just little notes. Sometimes she responds, sometimes she doesn't. But in those little ways, they're kept in touch over the years. Then, so she's married now to a coworker from the news station, and she's really wanting to advance in her career. She wants to go higher up the ladder. She wants to go from her small news station maybe to a bigger one. And she's kind of on everybody's radar for who would be promoted when the time comes. So she gets sent on a trip to Haiti, and that just... everything starts to fall apart in Haiti. She has some very intense experiences with some children who are killed and who she couldn't save no matter how hard she tried. And then one day when she goes on the air, as she is speaking and delivering the news, she has a full-blown panic attack, some sort of breakdown. There's, you know, hallucinations. She can barely speak. Everything is spinning. And she's saying a lot of weird things, and it's after that she gets fired, like just point blank from the station. And there goes her career. It's shortly after that she runs into Brian again, and they sort of hit it off. They meet when she's at a bar celebrating her divorce. While she's at the bar, she kind of gets cornered by this sleazy guy who's there buying drinks with his girlfriend who he's just had a fight with. And Brian sort of steps in and rescues her from this guy. And it's after that things just sort of kick off. And they eventually get married. And though her panic has just been growing and growing and growing, and then it's shortly after they get married that she then doesn't leave the house for another 18 months because her anxiety has gotten so bad she can't leave the house. Then part 2 comes. Part 2 is when we start to learn a little more about Brian. And we start to see that for Rachel, Brian is great. He's patient. He's positive. He's always so up and positive. He helps her in any way that he can with her anxiety. And eventually he's able to, after 18 long months, bring her back out into the world. And it's in coming back out into the world that she begins to think that things aren't quite what they seem. But she doesn't know what's off about it. So far as she knows, Brian is, you know, he works for the family's lumber company. He travels a lot. Usually once a month he's out of town for, you know, days or a week or two at a time, going overseas to Russia, to England, just everywhere. And it's during one of those business trips that he's gone, and then she, finally having come back out into the world, she rents a car because she'd long ago gotten rid of her car because she was like, I'm never gonna need it again. So she rents a car from like this little stand nearby, and as she's driving, she thinks that she sees her husband, Brian. And she's like, well, you know, that can't be. He's gone to England. He's on a business trip. He's up in the air right now, headed there. But she's like, she's really disturbed because this man looks just like him, is wearing the same clothes he was wearing. So she calls out his name, but the man doesn't hear her, and he gets in the vehicle and he drives off. And so she goes home and she texts her husband, and she's like, hey, did you make it, and all this stuff. And he's like, oh yeah. She's like, take a selfie in front of the hotel. Let me see what it looks like. Let me see what you look like. And he can tell that something's a little weird because she's never asked that of him before or anything like that. So he does. He texts her, and he texts the photo to her, and you know, eventually comes home and everything checks out. You know, he's got a stamp on his passport. He's got receipts in his pocket from a shop with an address in London. But it's shortly after that she's looking at the receipt again, because for whatever reason she pocketed it instead of throwing it out as she had been going to, and she notices that the date is written wrong. It's written the way we write it over here, month, day, year, whereas of course in England they write it day, month, year. And so that kind of tells her all that she needs to know, that it was him, that she saw him, he is lying, and what the hell is going on. She has absolutely no idea. So from there it just becomes this sort of mystery to try to figure out who he is, what he's doing, why he's lying to her. And she just finds out all kinds of things. You know, his name is not even his real name. His family's lumber company is just a stage front. Like, if she was going to be going to visit him at the office, they would set it up to look like a lumber company. But what they are is they're con men. And this goes on. It sort of just escalates into violence until finally we're brought to the part from the prologue where she is shooting him in a boat. She gets him in the chest and he falls back. And then she's kind of shook, and his partner's there, and they leave and they go back to her apartment. And his partner, who was, you know, a friend of hers throughout the entire marriage, kind of realizes that she knows they're lying. So he gives her some of the information, such as like what I just shared, that they're con men and that it was all a front. And then after, she goes back to the shallow water where he had fallen, and she finds that the body's not there, because she's looking for a set of keys that now these sort of gangster type men have come looking for. So she's like, I have no idea. And then she thinks, well, maybe the keys are on his person. So she goes because she knew the water was very shallow. And when she's down there, she sees an oxygen tank. And then she puts it together that he has actually that he knew that she was going to be driven to shooting him because of how upset and freaked out she was when she learned that her entire life was a lie, that he had set it up so that he could be fake shot. He had left the gun for her, and then he kind of thought that would be his way to get out of the situation. You know, he's dead, so no one's going to be looking for him. However, that didn't work out because she went back, and so now she knows he's out there somewhere, and she has to find him and find out what's going on, which she does. And then she finds out that he's stolen a lot of money, like $70 million from a company, due to a very intricate scheme, which I won't get into the details of because that would take forever. So in the end, we're kind of left with the fact that she's come to terms with, I don't know, it all kind of seemed kind of, I didn't love the ending. It kind of ends with the two of them keeping the money and just going. Where, you know, she got so mad at him for a while, but then she just kind of gets over it because she can't imagine not being with him. So it's kind of like, I didn't love it. You know, Dennis is an excellent writer. He's so good. He's good at weaving a story. I mean, the whole way through, I was like, what's going to happen? What next? What next? I couldn't stop reading it. It was just kind of the end that left me a bit, And in the beginning, it seemed like there was just way, way too much backstory on Rachel with things that didn't really matter. But, the beginning bit I'm okay with. The ending, not so much. I think I'd give it like a 3.5 out of 5. Because it was very well written. And the story was very interesting. So, there you go. If you've read that book, let me know in the comments down below. And let's get some shout outs in here, shall we? So the first woman I want to shout out, her YouTube channel name is Tosh Time. I will link it down below. She makes these really great videos with really inspirational tips of the day. She calls it her tip of the day. And every time I watch one of her videos, I'm left feeling a little lighter, a little happier, a little more positive. And isn't that a wonderful thing? Like, isn't that what we all want to feel? Just a little better during our days. And she definitely does that. Next up is Nicole Chantel. She is a beauty vlogger here on YouTube. She does some really beautiful looks. She does some wig reviews. She does hauls and favorites. And she's got a great personality. I love hearing her opinions on products. Plus, she's from Newfoundland, just like me. And finally, Marsh Fam Life Vlogs. I love this lady. First of all, she's so supportive here on YouTube. She comments. She's just such a great supporter. Also, I love her videos. She does vlogs like her title suggests. She does videos where she sits and talks to the camera. She's got this beautiful family that she shares with us, and I really love watching her videos. So I will link all of their channels down below. Please go check them out, and if you do, make sure you tell them that I sent you. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye!